I feel a lot less scared right now,
Great.
more hopeful, because I've been wanting to talk to this person about this, and I'm like, how do I tell them this? Like, so I have this trauma from my life. Turns out you're triggering it. Like, what? That's too hard to hear, right?
hmm
So I need to be more explicit.
Part of a founder's job is to recruit the right people to your team. But how do you handle a situation where you meet someone who looks incredible on paper, and yet you get a weird gut feeling about them? There are some red flags that you can't really even put your finger on. How do you stay true to yourself while also building trust with others? These are the questions that Lauren Tracy brings to our session today. Lauren is a serial entrepreneur, and what makes these questions especially challenging for her is the shadow of her past. In her last startup, she suffered a major betrayal, which not only caused a lot of hurt, it also created a lot of self-doubt in her and her ability to make decisions moving forward. By the end of our session, Lauren finds some new ways to understand her blind spot, as well as steps that she can take to build more trust with herself and others. Enjoy. Hey, Lauren, it's great to see you today.
It's nice to see you too, Brian.
Yeah, I'm really excited to be on this call with you. And so let me just introduce you to our audience. So Lauren Tracy is the co-founder and former CEO of a company called Blue Fever. And today she is the founder and CEO of a company called Mood Ring, which does smart jewelry for mental wellness. And Lauren, you and I have known each other for a while now. We worked together.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a couple of years ago. And,
Yep.
and nowadays you actually help with the podcast. Some people may not know that.
Yes.
So it's fun to be able to get into a session with you here today. And I'm really jazzed. And let me just hand it off to you. We chat a little bit before this, and why don't you tell me a bit about why we're here and what you're wanting to focus on?
Yeah. It's fun to be on the other side, but also, like I was saying, a little nerve-wracking too.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Always behind the scenes, but that's okay. That's why we're here. Okay, so this is an extension of what we worked on together before, and it is coming up for me now again. And that's that I am starting, as you said, my second tech wellness company, and I'm very excited. But recently, these red flags have been bubbling up for me in my gut about a potential collaborator.
Mm.
And I told myself in the past and recently that if I felt these feelings, I would walk away. I'd be like, maybe this isn't the right partnership for me, even if I can't like articulate exactly factually why.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I've ignored those flags in the past, it's come back to burn me and my startup. And on paper, this new collaborator is like the right person, as far as I can tell. Um, but I'm trying to figure out, how do I stay true to my gut and what I need as a founder to sustain myself right through this process, while also giving my startup the best talent and leg up that I can. And like, my question is, even can I do both of those things?
Yeah. So the right from the bat, it's like, it feels like maybe those two things are at odds. The idea of staying true to yourself and your needs,
Yes.
as well as getting the best talent possible to maximize the chances of success for your startup. And
Yeah.
from where you're sitting, there's like those might be opposing forces in some sense, is what I'm hearing from you.
Yeah.
In terms of the present day.
Yes. And this is probably like a conditioning thing, but there's some part of me that's like, just get over it. Like, don't be a baby. Just do what you need to do, kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, for the business and for your ambition.
Yeah.
But I know that it's not a black and white answer. I know that that's wrong.
Yeah.
To some extent.
Yeah. Yeah. It's great. And I'm glad that you brought up black and white, because, well, let me actually just dial it back, and let's just get clear on where you're trying to end up ultimately. So I'm going to paraphrase what I heard from you, and I want to actually just check it out with you and see if that feels right. And if it doesn't, I want you to maybe say it in your own words. What I'm hearing from you, Lauren, is that like at this current juncture, you're really trying to bring on, great people. There's a potential collaborator, and what you're really trying to work through is maybe it's with this person, or maybe it's more broadly, like get to a place where you really feel like you are capable of taking care of your own needs and bringing on the best people, because right now it doesn't really feel like you can. Is that accurate?
That's very accurate. And
Yeah.
like when you said that, I actually felt like a little bit of, I don't know, like tightness or kind of butterflies in my chest. It was like, that's the thing that I've been working on. It's some of the stuff that I'm trying to help, other people with my company too. So I need to live it first, one, because I need to and want to, but I can't, it's like I can't let myself get too stressed out about, well, really about anything. But this particular issue seems to spike my stress faster than other
Yeah.
things. And I want to be able to regulate that.
Yeah. So the butterflies, I wonder if you could just speak more to that. When you notice it come up, what was the message that you heard, if anything?
Um, Kind of like get ready to run.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like this, you're like it's like a heightened like watching out for danger. Like something feels wrong. Um, and it hasn't quite showed its face yet, I guess. And like look out for the face in case you have to sprint away.
Okay. So it's not telling you to run quite yet.
Yeah,
However, it's anticipating that. There's like, oh, we're expecting that we will need to do that. So get ready. Let's be
right.
prepared to flee.
Which means like I'm guessing the feeling I'm getting, which is like similar to maybe when I play sports, is like a rush of like adrenaline.
Uh-huh.
But I'm like, I don't actually need to do anything with it right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Yeah.
that energy is kind of exhausting.
I bet. Yeah. When the body's priming to take action like that, but you actually, there's nowhere for the energy to go, then it can be really, really
Yeah.
super uncomfortable, right? Because it's wanting to be expressed or released in some sense.
And actually, now that you say that, and like that I was talking about sports, I remember that when I've had this feeling in the past that I've um, taken care of it better, one of the ways that helps me the most is to play sports.
Yeah, cool. So you're already noticing there's something around physical movement in the body that can be helpful here.
Yeah, but it's like a partial solution.
Yeah.
It's like a coping mechanism.
Yeah. So why don't we try this and just like go directly into, start from the end, right? So like you were saying, can I take care of my needs and recruit the best people possible?
Yeah.
And so what is it about that question that's even making it a question right now?
Um, I've had this fear of what if, so there needs to be a little context here, I think. In the past, I've worked with a very, very close collaborator that I ended up not being able to trust because I realized there was a lot of lying happening. But it took me years to fully see what was going on. And it hurt my trust in myself because I chose to partner with that person.
Hmm.
And my ability moving forward to pick people who are both good for the business, which I have less of a concern about. I think I can pick people for that reason.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and are also good collaborators for me as a person and a business person is like, I'm just not as confident in that second part anymore. I was just sort of like overconfident, naive about it before. It's like I didn't know that I needed to even look for a solution for that. I was just like I just partnered with people who were
Mm-hmm.
like excited about whatever it is I was doing. And people are excited about this new venture too, potentially even more people than before. And so there's this filtering that I have to do, which is great. Okay. Like great problem to have.
Yeah.
But now I have to filter out some other levels because, and as a second time founder, I have more choice now. Like I can, choose this really good person or this really good person, Um, but I am worried that I'm going to choose the wrong person again for me, or maybe a couple people here and there,
Yeah.
and that I won't know that until it's quote too late, like it was last time.
Yeah. So I can already sense that there's a lot of emotional charge in this particular area. So we're going to definitely come back to that. I want to just clarify something. You said um, kind of picking the right people for me or collaborators for me. And I'm wondering
Yeah.
if you can say more about that. Like, what did you mean by that?
Oh, um, I I really enjoy working with people that give me energy.
Mm-hmm.
And I found that I can work with really smart people who can get a job done, let's say. Um, but for some reason, the interactions with them are draining. And I don't really have the ability as a founder to have um, time to recharge, nor do I want to do that to myself. Like, drain myself in meetings to then go into another one, needing to pretend I'm energized.
Mm-hmm.
Just not really a great way to operate.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that's like the biggest part there. And then I guess I use that language too because like these people I'm talking about may be perfectly fine with working with other people and they might energize somebody else,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or even might energize me sometimes, but then other times not. So it's about finding the people that I resonate with the best, again, to like sustain and like lift me up as a solo founder. That's going to be,
Yeah.
I'm going to need that feeling of being lifted up by the people around me too.
Especially at such an early stage. I would argue
Yeah.
that if you're like, you have, 20, 30, 40 people, you don't need to necessarily hire for that exclusively by that point. You have other
Right.
people
Also, I'm not
managing and
interacting
leading
with
and
each of those people as often,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, but at this stage, yeah, I think that actually makes a lot of sense to me. So,
But let me add something.
yeah.
Um, I was listening to this podcast. My dad's like super into history, and he asked me to listen to this podcast on Abraham Lincoln and how he functioned in working with people, and it has stuck with me for like a month
Mm,
now, where he was able to be friends with or friendly with and respectful of people who had totally different opinions and values than him.
mm-hmm,
And even were maybe politically against him, right, in his work. And he knew that in order to move the needle on whatever it is he was trying to get done, he had to understand the other side. And then he had like, I assume the way I was listening to it, boundaries up. Like it's not like you're best friends with the people who are, totally opposite of you, but maybe you can work together to a certain extent at a certain level
yeah.
without maybe, giving away 50% of your company or whatever it is in my case. And I have had this like point of view for the last couple of years of don't partner with anybody like that. And now I'm like, that's not fully feasible. And also, like, I can learn how to handle it. And I think this would be good for me to learn how to do better
Mm.
and manage it in the in between, as opposed to like the opposite ends of that spectrum.
So, what that sounded like to me is, when you think about the Lincoln example, it sounds like he is somebody who knew how to um, kind of properly slot people into his life, and
Mm-hmm.
um, he wasn't out to like be best friends with everybody. He was arguably he was after something like a much greater agenda, something that he really cared about.
Right.
Then he needed to recruit people around him to fulfill that. And it sounds
Yeah.
like that's something that really resonates with you or you admire, and it seems like you're contrasting that with some sense of like when you look at yourself and who you want to work with, there is some I don't know how to describe it, like some sense of like, I really want us to be really close, or I want the relationship with this person to look a certain way if I'm going to work with them. Like there's a lot of intimacy, perhaps, or
Mm,
deep connection, friendship, perhaps. I'm throwing some words out here. I don't know if these are matching for you, but like the sense that I get, especially as you were talking about like being in the gray or being in the in between, is that it doesn't have like it doesn't have to be like wow, like we're besties,
yeah.
or it doesn't have to be like we're totally cold to each other. It can be somewhere in between as we're working together. So
And that's what I prefer.
yeah,
Like I I have my best friends. I have the people I'm really close to, I rely on. I have my husband, I have my parents, these people that I'm consistently very close with, intimate with, and support me in those ways. I tend to lean, like naturally, I tend to lean very friendly and very like, I like to be just open with the people that I work with.
yeah,
But I personally see it as a business relationship.
hmm,
And that helps me. And I think in the past, the like, my interpretation is like the openness, like friendliness part, some people can interpret as the other, as like the friendship level.
hmm,
And it pains me to like put up boundaries that may hurt people.
hmm.
And I think I've like just let the boundaries melt away because of that.
And how much is that connected to what you were initially describing, this kind of like sense of needing to flee the red flags?
Yeah, I have this feeling generally about like if I get in too deep, I might feel trapped. That could be relationships, usually friendships, new friendships.
Hmm.
Although I pursue them too, it's just then I'm kind of cautious about the way that they progress. Um, Although this is like more recent from the kind of trauma I've had from the last business, less so me as a person. But I do feel that way when it comes to having a lot of responsibility. So, like, if I get to a point where business is or a startup is really working, I start to be like, oh shit, this is, I've told people I'm going to do it. I'm now doing it. I've told people I want to do this next step. I want to hit this vision, and I'm still very excited about it.
Yeah.
But there's this like fear of like being a bird that wants to like get out of its cage kind of thing, or at least like
Hmm.
know that it can get out of its cage if it wants to. And with friendships, especially if on paper you have a business relationship that like hooks you together, that freaks me out a little bit.
Okay, so what I hear is that there is a sense of like being constrained and wanting to break free when you are in too deep in a relationship with somebody.
Yes. And like if it's going really well, I feel good. If okay, the better way to put it is if I feel good, I feel good.
Mm,
Where it becomes a
okay.
problem
Yeah.
is if I'm getting red flags, yellow flags, whatever, even early flags,
Yeah.
let's say, um, that's when that trapped feeling starts to set in.
I'm a little confused though. So because what from where I'm sitting, it sounds like the red flag itself is feeling like you're trapped, but maybe I'm mishearing it or misunderstanding it.
Red flag can be anything. It can be just any negative feeling in my gut. It can be, oh, well, okay, I see what you mean. Wait, can you elaborate on that more?
Well, we've spent the last few minutes talking about how when like the way that you relate to people, there's like, we can all exist on a spectrum of closeness and intimacy. And
Mm-hmm.
what you were describing is when you use the words like in too deep with somebody, then that can feel like you're
Yeah.
trapped. And so
Yeah.
what I was hearing was, oh, when Lauren is feeling trapped, that's when she wants to flee.
I don't know why, but there's something that's not quite hitting the nail on the head for me with that statement.
Great. Yeah. So how would you update it?
All I can say so far that I'm realizing is that the the feeling the feeling of being in too deep is where like the fear is living. Um, and then the trapped thing is like, I don't feel trapped yet.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like if I don't do something about recognizing this fear, I will essentially like put myself in that cage. Or I'll lock the door and lose the key or something.
Okay. So there's a few different metaphors going on here.
Yeah. Good luck following this, audience.
It's okay. So why don't we talk about the actual red flags that you're noticing?
Yeah.
What is it that you're actually feeling you're responding to right now?
Okay, so I have a really big opportunity to potentially get some funding for prototyping out these smart mood rings. And in order to do that, I need a lot of people who have expertise that I don't. Um, and there's a few people on the team that I've been rounding up recently in order to make that happen.
Mm-hmm.
One of the relationships I found incredibly helpful, unexpectedly so. And
What do you mean unexpectedly so?
Somebody kind of going above and beyond to provide resources and information and connections that I didn't know existed and have been like the ones that are helpful of more so than some others on the team.
Okay.
And so the level of that sort of participation was a little bit unexpected because everybody's helpful. So it was just like another level of
Okay, great.
helpful.
Yeah, so there was like some generosity there.
Yes. And I got the feeling of like my business brain was like, yes. My emotional brain was like, be careful. I don't like to feel like I like owe someone something. And in this relationship I've had in the past, there was this like expectation of if value was given, like at some point I would owe this person something and I wouldn't even know what it was. And there was that attitude and I don't subscribe to that.
Okay. So your past experience where things felt maybe somewhat transactional, or there was like if I'm going to do something for you, then you now owe me, there's a debt, seems to
Right.
be sort of making its way into the current day, where here's somebody who is kind of going above and beyond to provide help and be generous, and there's that old feeling again, and you'd
Yes.
experienced some pain in the past with something that sort of
And
looked
I
like
don't
this.
have any signals yet that this person is going to feel like I owe them something in the
Okay.
same way. But I'm filling in those blanks.
So let me ask you
And I'm kind of
something,
realizing that right now,
Lauren. Let me
saying it
ask you
out loud
something.
with
So
you.
if that person, I'm not saying that they will, but let's say there's a world where they're like, Lauren, I did all this stuff for you. What are you gonna do for me? Like, if it were that explicit, how would you
Oh, that
respond
would
to
be
that?
great. No, actually, if it was explicit, it would be great. The problem is when it's not explicit and it
Uh-huh.
seeps into the attitude or like almost like what's the best way to describe this? Like what I could perceive as like retaliation for something I don't even know what it's for.
Mm. That sounds like to me like someone starts to act passive aggressively
Yeah.
and is not
Oh,
being
yeah.
and they're
Yep.
not being clear, they're not
Yes.
communicating clearly as to what their intentions are or what's driving their behavior or what they're wanting.
Right. And I like to, so up front, with this new person and with everybody I work with, I'm trying to be like, what can I, how do I pay you? Let's put this down on paper. Let's make sure I fully understand what your motivations and goals are. Let's create a win-win scenario
Mhm.
up front. And if it changes along the way, we'll talk about it, kind of thing.
Yep.
Very helpful for me
Great.
and how I function.
Great.
Um, so we're doing that.
Yep.
I just don't want to have this like stuff running in my head in the background.
Yeah, I just
The
noticed
emotional
that
stuff.
that smile and laugh start to come on your face. I'm curious what was coming up for you.
Um, I've done a lot of getting a little bit emotional about this, but I've done a lot of work on doing the stuff that I can control. And I would really like to be able to let go of that last, I'm not really sure what the percentage is,
Mhm.
probably somewhere between like 10 and 25%, which is a kind of a range. And that kind of confuses me sometimes of the emotional work I'm doing in my body and my brain to cope with the stuff I can't control.
Mhm.
And this is probably not realistic, but like I just want that last percentage to go away.
Yeah, maybe we can refine that a bit. So when you talk about this thing that you're not wanting or you want it to go away, you said it's like the thing that you can't control. Can you mm, get more specific? Like what's the thing that you're like really wanting to push out here?
If someone's going to behave a certain way, they're going to behave a certain way, whether I can predict it or not.
Yeah.
Um, and there's listening to my gut and taking action on that.
Mhm.
And then there's an added layer of worry, even though I am listening to my gut and taking action on that. And I want the added layer of worry to dissipate so that I can just do the things I love to do, you know? And I don't want it to slow me down or anything like that.
What's the worry telling you?
That my ambition may um, take over my taking care of myself
And what has it believing that that's going to be the case?
because I've done it before. And the fallout of that was um, way worse than if I had just taken care of myself along the way. I believe. I can't say for sure,
Mhm.
obviously, but that was my experience of it.
And
And
yeah,
yeah,
sorry.
no, there's, go ahead. I'm not sure.
Well, I hear like there's a party that really wants you to take care of yourself. Um,
Yeah.
and I'm really curious what that would look like. Either what would that look like in this present day situation, and or what would that have looked like in the prior situation?
Yeah, in the prior situation, it would have looked like if I had some kind of gut reaction that felt negative, have lots that feel positive. I make decisions based on it all the time, right? But when it felt negative, I would tend to ignore it. And when it felt positive, I would tend to listen and do something.
Yeah. So meaning
And
like you had the gut reaction prior, but you ignored it.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And I I know why I ignored it. And I want to work on making those blockers easier or breaking those blockers down. So like for example, if I had a bad gut feeling and doing something about it meant confronting somebody about something that I knew they would be not happy to hear,
Hmm.
small or I would do it in small ways. But if it was kind of major for that person, I wouldn't do it,
Yeah.
especially the closer me and that person got.
Hmm.
And I now know that that wasn't a singular my fault thing because I know this person is very good at getting close to people.
But yeah. So if you had brought it up, then it wouldn't have been a happy time for this other person, is what I'm hearing. And
It would not
so
have been a happy time. And I also think that I in my gut realized that there would be some kind of retaliation and I didn't know what that looked like. And not being able to understand that kind of scared me
sure.
for the relationship and for my business.
Yeah.
And so I sort of just said, you can handle this.
Yeah.
You can give up this one little thing, which wasn't really that little.
Yeah.
But I told myself that
Yeah.
and did that in kind of increasing levels, like ignored
Yep.
in increasing levels until when I finally was like, wait a second, this is really bad
Yeah.
for me and for other things. Doing something about it was like the hardest doing something about it because
Yep.
it was like the pattern of I had let the pattern happen, and so it just like snowballed,
Yeah.
and a lot more had to happen for me to do something about it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Are you familiar with Gabor Mate at all?
No.
Um, so he's an author, he's a psychologist. He's written several books, and one of the things that he talks about is the kind of relationship between authenticity and connection. And one of the things that
Okay.
we humans often do, especially as children, is because we're so wired for connection and attachment, we will sacrifice our own authenticity in order to preserve connection. And
Yeah,
authenticity, to
resonates.
be more specific, is what is it that we're desiring? What is it that we're needing?
Yeah.
What is it that we're feeling?
Yeah.
And a really good way to erode our own trust in ourselves is to deny our own authenticity
Yeah.
in favor of that connection. And so, what I
Yeah.
hear from you, Lauren, is that in that scenario, you did have a gut feeling, something that needed attention, something that you were hearing,
Hmm.
and you chose connection instead. And by the way, that's not a criticism. By the way, I think it's the most normal thing in the world. And there's
I don't
something,
take it as
yeah,
such.
there's something really to appreciate about that. But there are also consequences to it, right? It's like there's like some sense
Yeah.
of like, I'm denying my own authenticity. I'm going to mask it. I'm going to hide that until eventually it reaches a point where I can no longer do that. And then there's
Right.
going to be more of an eruption at that point.
I 100% resonate with that, which is sad to reflect on because um, I've always considered myself a pretty authentic person.
Hmm.
Um, but I've found that as I grow up more, I guess, I have to work on keeping that openness with my authenticity.
Yeah.
Um, I don't fit into a box, for example. I'd love to go back to something that you made me realize a few minutes ago because I think I might be able to make like leave here with something actionable um, from it. And that is that the reasons why I don't take action sometimes when I have these negative feelings is because those things are really hard for me to take action on as a person. Like I've never really been good at it.
Uh-huh.
Um, and maybe I need to just identify what those things are
Yeah.
and just practice them in like smaller ways.
I'm all about small steps and practice. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
with you. Yeah. Is there
I
anything
know we used to do this, right?
Yeah.
Between
Is
sessions.
there anything that's coming up specifically for you, or do you want to like workshop it a bit?
Only one, and I feel like it's probably not the full extent of them all. So the one is what I said before. If I am going to hurt someone, if I know taking care of myself is going to hurt someone else,
Uh-huh.
it's just very hard.
Yeah.
And the only person I would say I've mastered this with, maybe that's not even the right word, is my husband. And we have known each other for like 16 years.
Yeah.
So there's been a lot of practice
Hmm.
there, and we have a lot of reason to
Hmm.
practice,
Yeah.
right? Um, Doing it with close friends, not good at.
Yeah.
Have done, very rare. Doing it with strangers, maybe a little easier.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't like it.
So all of that really resonates with me. I mean, look, this is such a human challenge. How do we
Yeah.
reveal ourselves to another person without hurting their feelings, without upsetting them?
Mm.
And I use that word reveal intentionally because I think that one of the things that can get very tricky when it comes to interpersonal dynamics is that when we communicate to another person, we can very unintentionally be very sloppy. And so in this instance,
Mm.
like sloppy might be, hey, it seems like you're maybe expecting something on the other end of this favor that you're doing for me. Just to make up an example here. And so
Yeah.
I'm sort of projecting some intention on that person. I'm assuming I know, right? And
Right.
if I'm on the other side, it could be very easy for me to take that personally. Wow, this person doesn't know what I'm actually about. Like they don't understand what my
Right.
intentions are, or how could they think that about me, right? And so when I go back to this word reveal, um, I'm trying to be very precise with my words here. Revealing meaning I'm going to take a moment to share with you my own internal experience of how
Yeah.
this relationship is for me, how relating to you
Yeah.
is, and really taking full ownership of that,
Yeah.
acknowledging that I'm probably operating with a lot of assumptions, a lot of beliefs, filters of interpretation that are causing me to experience our relationship in a certain way. And I want to bring that up with you, not to be judge, jury, and executioner or to assume I know the truth, but to actually help you understand me a little bit better and then actually build trust and learn with you. So I'll pause there and I just want to see just how that whole concept how it's landing with you.
Um, Totally get it. Get it in theory.
Yeah, yeah.
I think it is largely how my husband and I now successfully have these conversations.
Great. So you have actual, lived experience of this.
Yeah, like I know it works,
Yeah.
focusing on myself and also telling that person what I need or telling them I don't need anything, but it may turn into something later and I don't want them to feel weirded out when they can sense that, and we'll address it as it goes along. But like there's this other part of me that I want to make sure I recognize and let out that's like kind of like fuck that, because in some cases I feel like I've been really manipulated and taken advantage of. Um, and in other cases, I am like, this is either my thing and I need to address that with this person as my thing that I'm working on so that they're aware.
Hmm.
And then there's this middle ground where it's like maybe this person is getting something from me that I find to be um, maybe in the spectrum of like feels a little wrong.
So it sounds like there's a little bit of a black and white there. There's either like
Right.
this party is like fuck that. They're like, well, yeah, like either I can protect myself or I can reveal myself and connect with this person, but I can't do either. I can't do both.
I think that with most people, I feel like I can do both. I can do the middle. Or both. I don't know if that's the right way of putting it. I can own my side, ask for what I need, try to find out if there's anything I can listen to on their side. Most people, I feel that
Okay, so
very
this person that you're
distinctly.
thinking about right now, this potential collaborator, what does it look like to do both of those with this person
I
to
don't know.
connect? Okay.
I don't know, but because I've gotten signals that remind me of the version where I'm like, this, I've tried it, it doesn't work with this person, this past person in my
Okay.
past,
Yeah.
because I have similar signals. My fear is that if I do that with this person, try to have this kind of open conversation, it won't go well,
Yep.
or I will be revealing myself and they won't.
Yep.
And then I'll be at like a deficit or something.
Either way, you're going to find out more information.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just scary.
You're right. It is scary. I get it. But that's also how you build trust with yourself.
And with others.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Now I'm trying to go like, what exactly are you going to say?
How about starting with what's true for you? Meaning, like, what's true for you in the presence of this person?
Should I do that here now?
If you want to try it on,
um,
sure.
so part of what I would want here, okay, here's if I didn't have the fear, if I didn't have this scariness fear
Yeah.
thing, here's what I would say. I would say, um, it's gonna be more bullet points than the exact language, but I would get at the points of there are some things about your generosity, your helpfulness that I was not expecting that remind me of a past collaborator I had where we worked really well together and we did a lot of really good work together. On the flip side, um, I get a sense that how do I express this? Okay, I'm just saying this to you, Brian, for a second, because it's what I'm observing, but I don't know how I would say this to somebody. Um, I get the feeling that she wants more than what I am willing to give. And that goes both like socially, I would say, as well as in a business capacity. And I feel badly about that.
What makes you feel bad about it?
Because if I choose to work with that person because I do think that they have value and they want more and I have the reins and I won't give them more, I fear that they're always going to feel like slighted.
What makes you not trust them to ask for what they want?
A lot of people don't. A lot of people don't, and in my experience, um, women do it a lot less. They don't ask for what they want and need. And I work with mostly women. So it's been my experience that I have to pull that out of them, where um, and that's been something I've had to learn how to do because it's not exactly natural to me.
Another way of putting that is you're taking on a lot of responsibility for them.
Yeah.
Like the fact that someone isn't asking for what they want isn't actually your responsibility.
Well, I just thought of my baby. In his case, it is my responsibility. But
Yeah, but you're working with
I
adults, not babies.
agree with you.
I assume.
Yeah. Yep. Hmm. I think if I just continue to ask people to pay attention to what they want and to give them the space and format in whatever format they want, because a lot of people will be like fine saying it over email, but like can't say it to your face. Let's say
Sure.
it's too nerve-wracking for them.
Yeah.
I would rather work with people that can say it to my face because it's easier for me to have that kind of process. Think about it, offline. But it's the quickness of that I appreciate, and like the lack of. Also, I think I can read their face and go like, is this really what they are? Is there something missing that they're not saying? And I can tell that on a face quickly, but I can't necessarily tell it like, over email. So,
Sure.
my preference would be like real directness that way. But I think maybe I just need to like make it clear that I want that from people up front and throughout relationships.
And that would
And
be a great
I
way for you
want
to
them to
model that.
win whatever they want, however they want to win, great. If they can get that in a partnership with me, great. And if they can't, I'm going to have to tell them.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. I know what I have to do.
Yeah. So we're going to wrap in a minute, but I'd love to hear what just popped up, what the thing that you got to do here.
What I need to do is I need to stick to my guns about what I want, don't want, can give, am not willing to give, and be clear with people, and also be open to asking people and hearing that they want something I can't give, and practicing telling them I can do these things, I can't do these things. And if you're not 100% satisfied with it, I totally understand. And not feeling and recognizing that that's okay, and they don't have to feel like bad or so sorry about it.
Yeah. And if you kept on doing that, what you just described, what do you think that would do for your self-trust?
I just would stop worrying. And the worry is where the confidence and trusting myself starts to erode.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel a lot less scared right now.
Great.
More hopeful, because I've been wanting to talk to this person about this, and I'm like, how do I tell them this? I'm like, so I have this trauma from my life. Turns out you're triggering it. Like, what? That's too hard to hear, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I need to be more explicit, I think, about what is actionable for them.
Great. Awesome.
Thanks, Brian.
You got it. I look forward to hearing how it goes.
Me too.
Yeah. Awesome. Great to be with you, Lauren. Self-doubt is a really common obstacle for founders. It also happens to be an appropriate response to situations where you deny your own experience. When we fail to meet important needs of ours, some part of us will naturally go and question whether or not we're going to stand up for ourselves in future tough situations. And often these situations have to do with other people. As humans, we're so wired for connection that we will often avoid honest, vulnerable conversations in order to maintain connection. But if we continually withhold ourselves to avoid rocking the boat, eventually it will come back to bite us. The critical reframe for Lauren was going from authenticity versus connection to authenticity creating connection. Rather than having to choose one versus the other, Lauren can trust that by being fully herself, including her boundaries, she will eventually end up with relationships characterized by high commitment and openness. And those things will undoubtedly support her in her quest to build a high-performance team. Thank you for listening to Slow Down to Speed Up. If you enjoyed this episode, please give it a rating in your favorite podcasting app or give it a like and subscribe on YouTube. And for your founder looking to reach the next level through coaching or you'd like to come on the show, please contact me at dashingleadership.com.